I'm Sarah Mitchell, 32 years old. 3 months ago, I was rushed to the emergency room with what turned out to be a critical heart condition requiring immediate surgery. My 2-year-old daughter Emma needed someone to watch her while I went under the knife. I called my parents from the ambulance, my voice shaking, my chest feeling like it was being crushed in a vice. "Mom, I need you to come get Emma. They're saying I need emergency heart surgery." "I'm scared." There was a pause. Then my mother's voice came through, ice cold and annoyed. "Sarah, you're always so dramatic about everything. It's probably just anxiety. You know how you get." "Mom, I'm in an ambulance. The paramedic is literally telling me my heart rhythm is dangerously irregular. Please, I just need you to watch Emma for a few hours." "We can't," she said flatly. "Your father and I have plans tonight. We're taking your brother to see Drake. We've had these tickets for months. You know how hard those were to get." I couldn't breathe, and it wasn't just my heart condition. "Mom, I could die. Your granddaughter needs someone too. Stop being so melodramatic. Call one of your friends. We're not canceling our plans because you decided to have a panic attack." The line went dead. I sat there in the back of that ambulance, monitors beeping around me, a paramedic asking if I was okay, and I realized something that should have been obvious years ago. I was completely alone. The two people who were supposed to love me unconditionally had just chosen a concert over their daughter's life. From my gurney in the emergency room with nurses rushing around me and doctors shouting medical terms I didn't understand, I made 2 calls. The first was to Elite Care Services, a professional childcare agency I'd researched months ago but never thought I'd need. Within 20 minutes, a NICU-trained nanny named Patricia arrived at the ER to take Emma home. The second call was to my bank. I transferred $3,800 from my account into a separate savings account. That was the amount I'd been depositing into my parents' account every single month for the last 8 years. They thought it was coming from my brother's investment income. They had no idea it was me. Before I tell you what happened when my parents found out, I need you to understand how I got here. If you're enjoying this story, I'd really appreciate if you could hit that like button. But only if you're genuinely finding value in it. Now let me take you back to where this all started. Growing up, I was always the other one. My brother Marcus was 3 years older, and from the moment he could walk he was destined for greatness, at least according to my parents. He was the football star, the homecoming king, the kid who could do no wrong. I was the quiet one who liked books and spent too much time drawing in notebooks. When Marcus got a B in chemistry, Dad hired him a private tutor and told him he believed in him. When I brought home straight A's, Mom glanced at my report card and said, "Well, that's what we expect." The pattern continued into adulthood. Marcus dropped out of college after 2 years to pursue entrepreneurship, which really meant jumping from one failed business idea to another. My parents funded every venture. They bought him a condo when he was 23. They co-signed for a BMW he couldn't afford. When his ventures inevitably collapsed, they covered his debts without question. Meanwhile, I put myself through nursing school working 3 jobs. I graduated with honors, landed a position at County General Hospital, and bought a small house in a modest neighborhood. My parents came to my graduation but left early because Marcus had a big investor meeting that turned out to be drinks with friends. When I got pregnant with Emma at 29, after my husband died in a construction accident, my parents' response was typically underwhelming. "Well, that's going to make things harder for you," Mom said. No offer to help. No excitement about their first grandchild. Just disappointment that I'd complicated my life. What they didn't know, what they'd never known, was that I'd been supporting them financially for nearly a decade. It started when I was 24. I'd just gotten my first real nursing job with a decent salary. My parents called me one night, which was unusual. They only called when they needed something. "Sarah, we need to talk to you about something serious," Dad said. "We're behind on rent. 3 months behind. We might get evicted." I was shocked. "How did this happen? You both work. Your mother's hours got cut. My back has been acting up, so I've been missing shifts. We just need a little help to get caught up." "How much do you need?" "About $4,000 to get current and cover next month." I had $6,000 in my savings account. Money I'd been carefully setting aside. But they were my parents. They needed help. "I can help you," I said. "Thank you, sweetheart. We'll pay you back as soon as we're on our feet." They never paid me back. But a month later they called again. Then the next month. And the next. It became a pattern. They needed $800 here, $1,200 there. Always temporary. Always until they got back on their feet. After 6 months of irregular payments, I did something they never knew about. I called their landlord directly and set up an automatic payment system. Every month, $3,800 went straight from my account to their rent and utilities. They thought Marcus was covering it through some investment account he'd set up for them. He was more than happy to take credit for it. "Your brother is so successful," Mom would say. "He takes such good care of us." I never corrected her. I told myself it was enough that they were taken care of. I didn't need recognition. I was just being a good daughter. But over 8 years that added up. $3,800 a month for 96 months. That's $364,800. Over $250,000 that I'd quietly funneled to my parents while they praised Marcus for his generosity and treated me like an afterthought. When Emma was born, I called to tell them. "That's nice, dear," Mom said. "Listen, I can't talk long. We're heading to Marcus's place for dinner. He's grilling steaks." They didn't visit the hospital. They didn't bring gifts. They didn't offer to help. When Emma was 3 months old and I was drowning in exhaustion and grief over my husband, they came by once. Mom held Emma for maybe 5 minutes before handing her back. "She's fussy," she said, as if that was my fault. They left after 20 minutes because they had theater tickets with Marcus. For 2 years this was my reality. Working full-time as an ER nurse, raising Emma alone, paying my parents' rent while they lavished attention on Marcus and ignored their granddaughter. I told myself it was fine. I didn't need them. Emma and I were doing great on our own. And then my heart started giving out. It started 3 weeks before the emergency. I was at work in the middle of a shift when I felt my heart skip. Not the flutter you get when you're nervous. A genuine physical sensation of my heart stopping for a beat, then racing to catch up. I ignored it. Nurses are terrible patients. We always think we know better than to worry about symptoms. But it kept happening. 2, 3, 4 times a shift. Then it started happening at home. I'd be playing with Emma, reading her a bedtime story, and suddenly my heart would stutter. I'd have to sit down, catch my breath, wait for the feeling to pass. I finally went to see Dr. Chin, a cardiologist at my hospital. He ran tests. An EKG. Stress test. An echocardiogram. His face grew more serious with each result. "Sarah, you have a condition called ventricular tachycardia. Your heart's electrical system is misfiring. Without treatment, this could lead to sudden cardiac arrest." The room seemed to tilt. "What kind of treatment?" "We need to do a catheter ablation. We'll go in through your femoral artery, find the area that's misfiring and ablate it. Essentially, create a small scar that stops the abnormal electrical pathway." "Is it dangerous?" "All heart procedures carry risk. But without it, you're at serious risk of sudden death. We need to schedule this soon." I scheduled it for 3 weeks out. I needed time to arrange childcare, to prepare. I didn't tell my parents because I didn't want to hear my mother tell me I was overreacting. I planned to ask my friend Jennifer from work to watch Emma during the procedure. But then 2 days before my scheduled surgery, everything accelerated. I was giving Emma dinner, mac and cheese, her favorite, when my heart didn't just skip. It seized. I felt a crushing pain in my chest, radiating down my left arm. The room spun. I couldn't breathe. Emma looked at me with her big brown eyes. "Mama, okay?" I managed to dial 911 before I collapsed. The last thing I remember before the paramedics arrived was Emma's little hand patting my face, saying, "Mama, wake up." In the ambulance, they told me I'd gone into sustained VTach. My heart rate was over 200 beats per minute. They'd had to cardiovert me, shock my heart back into rhythm. I needed emergency surgery. Tonight. That's when I called my parents. And that's when they told me they had Drake tickets. Patricia, the nanny from Elite Care, was a godsend. She was in her 50s with 20 years of NICU experience and the calm competence of someone who'd seen everything. She arrived at the ER in under 30 minutes, assessed the situation immediately and scooped Emma into her arms. "Mama has to go help some doctors," she told Emma in a soothing voice. "You and I are going to go have a fun sleepover at your house. We'll read stories and have snacks, and when you wake up, Mama will call you. Does that sound good?" Emma, who usually had stranger danger, nodded and reached for Patricia's hand. Something about this woman radiated safety. "Thank you," I whispered, tears streaming down my face. Honey, you focus on getting better. Your little girl will be fine. I've got her. They wheeled me into surgery at 9:47 p.m. The last thing I thought before the anesthesia took me under was, my parents are at a concert right now. They're singing along to Drake while their daughter is having open heart surgery. The procedure took 4 hours. Dr. Chen later told me it was more complicated than expected. They'd found multiple abnormal pathways and had to do extensive ablation. There was a moment around hour 3 when my heart stopped entirely and they had to restart it. I could have died. When I woke up in the cardiac ICU, the first thing I did was ask about Emma. The nurse, Diane, I knew her from smiled and showed me her phone. Patricia had sent updates every hour. Pictures of Emma sleeping peacefully, thumbs up emojis, reassuring messages. You've got a good team taking care of your little girl, Diane said. Yeah, I said softly. I do. My parents weren't there. I hadn't expected them to be. But still, some small part of me had hoped that maybe, just maybe, they'd realize the seriousness of the situation and show up. They didn't. I stayed in the ICU for 2 days, then moved to a regular cardiac floor for 3 more. Patricia stayed with Emma the entire time, refusing to leave until I was home and stable. I tried to pay her double her rate. She refused. Some things matter more than money, she said. That little girl needed someone who could be fully present. I'm glad I could be that person. During those 5 days in the hospital, my phone remained silent. No calls from my parents. No texts asking how the dramatic panic attack had turned out. Nothing. But on day 3 something interesting happened. My father called. Not to check on me, to complain. Sarah, there's something wrong with the rent payment. The landlord called and said it didn't go through this month. Can you check with Marcus? He handles all that, but I can't reach him. I was still hooked up to a heart monitor, still recovering from surgery that had saved my life, and my father was calling to complain about rent. I don't know anything about that, Dad, I said, my voice flat. You'll have to work it out yourself. Well, can you at least call Marcus for us? You know how he is about answering his phone. No, Dad. I can't. I'm in the hospital. Oh, still? I thought that was just a one-day thing. What are you in the hospital for? The question hit me like a physical blow. He didn't even know. He'd forgotten, or more likely had never registered, that I'd told Mom I needed emergency heart surgery. I had open heart surgery, Dad. To fix the heart condition that almost killed me. The one I told Mom about before you went to your concert. There was a long pause. Oh, right. Well, you sound fine now. So about the rent. I hung up on him. For the first time in my life, I hung up on my father. And in that moment, I made a decision. I was done. I went home on day 6. Patricia helped me get settled, made sure Emma and I had everything we needed, and only left when I literally pushed her out the door with a check for a week's worth of care. You call me if you need anything, she said. And I mean anything. I gave you my personal cell number for a reason. Emma was overjoyed to have me home, but she was also remarkably well-adjusted considering the circumstances. Patricia had been that good. We spent the first day just cuddling on the couch watching Disney movies, eating ice cream for lunch. My parents still hadn't called. On day 7 I was sitting at my kitchen table with my laptop, reviewing my finances. My cardiologist had recommended I take at least 6 weeks off work to recover fully. Between short-term disability and my savings I'd be okay, but only if I stopped the monthly $3,800 drain. I pulled up the automatic payment to my parents' landlord. My finger hovered over the cancel button for a long moment. 8 years of payments. Nearly $365,000. All done quietly without recognition, out of some misguided sense of filial duty. And when I'd needed them most, they'd chosen Drake. I clicked cancel. Then I drafted an email to my parents. Mom and Dad. As of today, I'm discontinuing the monthly rent and utility payments I've been making on your behalf for the past 8 years. The automatic transfer of $3,800 per month is now canceled. You may be confused by this message as you believed Marcus was covering these expenses. He wasn't. It was always me. For 96 consecutive months, I've paid your rent while working full-time, putting myself through nursing school and later raising my daughter alone after my husband died. During my recent emergency heart surgery that was necessary to save my life, I called you for help with Emma. You refused because you had concert tickets. You didn't call to check on me afterward. You didn't ask if the surgery went well. You didn't ask about your granddaughter. The only call I received was Dad asking me to chase down Marcus about a rent payment that didn't go through. That payment didn't go through because I was in the ICU, recovering from a procedure where my heart stopped and had to be restarted. I've paid $364,800 to support you over the years. I did it quietly because I loved you and wanted to help. But I'm done being invisible while Marcus gets all the credit and all the attention. Going forward, you're on your own. I wish you the best. I read it 3 times. Then I hit send. For the first time in 8 years I felt light. They got the email at 4:37 p.m. on a Tuesday. I know because that's when the calls started. The first call came from my mother at 4:41 p.m. I let it go to voicemail. Sarah, what is this email? What are you talking about? Call me immediately. Second call, 4:43 p.m. Voicemail again. Sarah, this is ridiculous. If you have something to say, you say it to my face, not in some passive-aggressive email. Call me back. Third call, 4:47 p.m. Sarah Mitchell, you pick up this phone right now. We need to talk about this. This accusation you're making. By 6 p.m. I had 17 missed calls. I turned my phone on Do Not Disturb and focused on making Emma dinner. The next morning I woke up to 43 missed calls and 29 text messages. I scrolled through them while drinking my coffee, Emma playing with her blocks on the living room floor. The messages followed a predictable pattern. First, denial. You're obviously confused about something. Marcus handles our finances, not you. Then anger. How dare you make up lies about supporting us? We've never taken a dime from you. Then bargaining. Even if you did help out occasionally, family helps family. That's what you're supposed to do. Then guilt-tripping. After everything we've done for you, this is how you repay us? By abandoning us. And finally, panic. Sarah, please. The landlord is demanding the rent. We can't afford this on our own. Please just give us time to figure this out. I didn't respond to any of them. On day 3 post-email, my brother finally called. Marcus had been copied on the email but apparently needed 2 days to process it. This time I answered. Sarah, what the hell is going on? Mom is freaking out. Hi Marcus. How was the Drake concert? What? The concert was fine. Listen, Mom says you're claiming you've been paying their rent for 8 years. That's insane. I set up that investment account for them. No, you didn't. You told them you did. But the actual payments came from my checking account. I have 8 years of bank statements to prove it. There was a long silence. Why would you do that? Because they needed help and I'm their daughter. The better question is, why did you let them believe it was you? Because, it made them happy. They were proud of me. And that was worth more to you than the truth? Sarah, you don't understand. I've had a lot of failed ventures. A lot of disappointments. They needed to believe I was successful at something. It wasn't hurting anyone. It was hurting me, Marcus. It hurt every time they praised you for your generosity while ignoring everything I did. It hurt when I needed help with Emma and they were too busy celebrating your latest scheme. And it really hurt when I was having emergency heart surgery and they couldn't be bothered because they had concert tickets with you. I didn't know about the surgery. Because none of you ever asked how I was. When's the last time you called me just to talk? When's the last time any of you asked about Emma? You don't know anything about my life because you've never cared to know. That's not fair. Fair? You want to talk about fair? I've given our parents $364,800 while you've given them empty promises and taken credit for my money. I don't think you get to lecture me about fair. I hung up before he could respond. The calls intensified. By day 5 I was getting 60 to 70 calls a day from various numbers. My parents, Marcus, my Aunt Linda, my Uncle Frank. Everyone in the family weighed in. The messages ranged from accusatory to pleading to outright hostile. My favorite was from my Aunt Linda. Your mother is devastated. How can you be so cruel to the people who raised you? I replied, the people who raised me taught me to be independent and self-sufficient. I'm just following their advice. She didn't respond. 2 weeks after I sent the email, I had a follow-up appointment with Dr. Chen. Emma came with me. I was still not cleared to drive, so Patricia drove us to the hospital. We were in the waiting room when my parents walked in. I saw my mother first. She looked older, somehow more tired. My father was behind her, his face set in that stern expression he wore when he was about to deliver a lecture. They spotted me immediately. Sarah, we need to talk, Mom said, marching over. You can't just ignore us forever. Emma shrank against my side. She didn't recognize them. They'd seen her so rarely that they were essentially strangers to her. Not here, I said quietly. I have an appointment. We've been trying to reach you for 2 weeks. 2 weeks, Sarah. Do you know what you've put us through? I know exactly what I've put you through. The same thing you put me through when I was in emergency surgery and you chose Drake over your daughter. We didn't know it was serious. I told you I was in an ambulance. I told you I needed heart surgery. What part of that didn't sound serious? My father finally spoke. You've always exaggerated things, Sarah. Every little ache and pain is a crisis with you. We thought you were being dramatic. I almost died, I said, my voice shaking. My heart stopped during surgery. They had to restart it. I could have left Emma orphaned. And you didn't even call to check on me afterward. We were going to, Mom said weakly. We got busy. Too busy for 2 weeks. You found time to call me 70 times yesterday about rent money, but you couldn't find time to ask if your daughter survived surgery. A nurse appeared in the doorway. Sarah Mitchell? Dr. Chin is ready for you. I stood, taking Emma's hand. I have to go. We're not finished talking about this, Dad said. Yes, we are. We're finished talking about everything. I started to walk away, but Mom grabbed my arm. Sarah, please. We're going to lose our apartment. We can't afford it without your help. Just give us a few more months to figure things out. You had 8 years to figure things out. I'm done subsidizing your life while you treat me like I don't exist. But where will we go? What will we do? I don't know, Mom. Maybe Marcus can help. He's the successful one, right? The one who takes such good care of you. I pulled my arm free and followed the nurse down the hallway. Behind me, I could hear my mother's voice rising, calling my name. I didn't look back. Dr. Chen's examination room was quiet and calm. He checked my incisions, reviewed my test results, and smiled. You're healing beautifully. Your heart rhythm is perfect. Whatever you're doing, keep doing it. I cut toxic people out of my life, I said. Turns out that's good for cardiac health. He laughed. Best medicine there is. When we finished, Patricia was waiting in the hall with Emma. But there was someone else with them. Dr. Morrison, the ER physician who'd been on duty the night I came in. Sarah, he said warmly. Good to see you up and walking. How are you feeling? Much better, thank you. You saved my life that night. We all did our jobs. But listen, I wanted to talk to you about something. I was just in the waiting room and I couldn't help but overhear your conversation with those people. Are they your parents? My stomach dropped. Yes. I'm sorry if they caused a scene. No. Nothing like that. But. He hesitated. Sarah, I need to tell you something. The night you came in when you were in VTACH, I asked who your emergency contact was. You said your parents. I called them while you were in surgery. The world tilted. You what? I called the number you gave me. Your mother answered. I identified myself as an ER physician at County General and told her you were in critical condition, undergoing emergency cardiac surgery, and that she should come to the hospital immediately. What did she say? Dr. Morrison's expression was grim. She asked if you were going to die in the next 2 hours. I said I didn't know, but that your condition was serious and unstable. She said, and I quote, well, if she's still alive in 2 hours, I'll think about coming by tomorrow. We have plans tonight. Then she hung up. The room spun. I sat down hard on a bench in the hallway. I documented the call in your chart, Dr. Morrison continued. I've been a physician for 23 years and I have never, not once, had a family member respond that way to a life-threatening emergency. I wanted you to know because I heard them in the waiting room saying they didn't know it was serious. They knew, Sarah. They absolutely knew, and they chose not to come. Patricia's hand was on my shoulder, steadying me. Emma was in her arms, playing with her necklace, oblivious. Why are you telling me this? I whispered. Because you looked like you might be wavering. Like maybe you were second-guessing your decision to cut them off. And I wanted you to know that your decision was the right one. Parents who respond that way to their child's medical emergency. He shook his head. You deserve better. That little girl deserves better. Thank you, I managed. Thank you for telling me. He nodded and walked away. I sat there for a long moment processing. They'd known. The whole time they'd known how serious it was, and they'd gone to the concert anyway. And now they were out in that waiting room rewriting history, pretending they'd been victims of my poor communication. Patricia sat down beside me. "You okay, honey?" "Yeah," I said slowly. "Yeah, I think I actually am." We stood to leave, heading toward the exit. As we passed the waiting room, my parents were still there, talking to the receptionist, probably trying to find out when my next appointment was. My father saw me and started to stand. I met his eyes and shook my head once. He froze. Then Dr. Morrison stepped into the waiting room. I couldn't hear what he said, but I saw my father's face go pale. Absolutely white. His hands started to shake. My mother's eyes went wide. Dr. Morrison was reading from a chart. My chart, I realized. He was telling them exactly what he'd told me. About the phone call. About my mother's response. About the documentation. I didn't stay to see the rest. Patricia, Emma, and I walked out the main entrance into the bright afternoon sun. "Where to now?" Patricia asked. I looked down at Emma, who was smiling up at me, reaching for my hand. "Home," I said. "We're going home." The calls continued for 6 weeks, but with diminishing frequency. At first it was 80-90 times a day from various numbers. Then 50. Then 20. Eventually they trailed off to nothing. I heard through my Aunt Linda that my parents had to move out of their apartment. They're living with Marcus now in his one-bedroom condo. Apparently the arrangement is not going well. Marcus's investment income doesn't actually exist, so he can't help them. They're applying for senior housing and government assistance. I feel nothing about this. Not satisfaction, not guilt, nothing. They made their choices. I'm back at work now, part-time, while I finish recovering. The hospital was incredibly supportive, and my colleagues have become my real family. They threw Emma a third birthday party last month. 40 people showed up, all of them bringing gifts and love for a little girl they barely knew because they care about me. Patricia still babysits Emma twice a week. She's become like a grandmother to her. The grandmother Emma should have had but didn't. She reads to her, bakes cookies with her, and tells her stories about when she was a nurse. Emma adores her. Last week I got a letter from my mother. Not an email, an actual handwritten letter. I almost threw it away without reading it, but curiosity got the better of me. "Dear Sarah, I've spent 3 months thinking about what to say to you. Your father says we should forget about you and move on. Marcus says you'll come around eventually. But I know better. I know what we did. I know we chose wrong. That night when the doctor called, I told myself you'd be fine. You're always fine. You're strong and capable, and you don't really need us. That's what I told myself. But the truth is I was angry. Angry that you were interrupting our plans. Angry that you always seemed to need something. Angry that you weren't Marcus, easy, charming, successful Marcus who never asked for anything. I didn't realize until much later that you never asked for anything because we'd taught you that asking was pointless. The doctor told us what I said on the phone. He told us that your heart stopped during surgery. He told us you could have died and we weren't there. Your father hasn't been the same since. He doesn't say it, but I know he thinks about it. What if you had died? What if Emma had grown up without a mother because we wanted to see a concert? I can't undo it. I can't go back and make different choices. All I can do is tell you that I'm sorry and that I know sorry isn't enough. I don't expect you to forgive me. I don't expect you to let us back into your life. I just wanted you to know that I see it now. I see what we did to you and I'm ashamed. Love, Mom. I read it twice. Then I folded it carefully and put it in a drawer. Maybe someday I'll feel something when I read it. Maybe someday the apology will matter. But today it doesn't. Today I have a life to live and a daughter to raise. And I'm doing both without the people who taught me I wasn't worth showing up for. Emma runs into the kitchen, her little feet pattering on the tile. Mama, can we go to the park? Absolutely, I say, scooping her into my arms. Let's go. As we walk to the park, Emma's hand in mine, I think about what I've learned. I learned that family isn't just blood. It's the people who show up when you need them. It's Patricia who dropped everything to care for a stranger's child. It's Dr. Morrison who made sure I knew the truth. It's my coworkers who've become my support system. I learned that being a good person doesn't mean being a doormat. I spent 8 years trying to earn my parents' love through financial support, and all I got was taken for granted. And I learned that some relationships aren't worth saving. Not every family member deserves a place in your life, and walking away from toxicity isn't cruel. It's self-preservation. My phone buzzes. It's a text from Patricia. Dinner at my place Sunday? I'm making pot roast. Emma can help me bake cookies. I text back, we'll be there. This is my family now. The one I chose. The one that chose me back. And my heart, my literal physical heart and my emotional one, has never been healthier. 6 months after the surgery, I ran into my brother at a grocery store. He was alone, looking tired and older than his 35 years. Sarah, he said, surprised. Hey. Marcus. An awkward silence hung between us. How's Emma? He finally asked. She's great. Growing like a weed. Good. That's good. Another pause. Look, I know you don't want to hear from any of us, but I wanted to say I'm sorry. For taking credit for helping Mom and Dad. For not standing up for you. For all of it. I studied his face, looking for signs of manipulation or insincerity. I didn't find any. Okay, I said simply. Is there any chance we could, I don't know, get coffee sometime? Try to rebuild something. I thought about it. Really thought about it. Then I shook my head. I don't think so, Marcus. I've spent too many years trying to have relationships with people who didn't value me. I'm done with that. I'm building a life with people who actually show up. He nodded slowly. I get it. I do. For what it's worth, living with Mom and Dad has been eye-opening. I see now how they treated you. How I treated you. Good, I said. I hope that helps you be better for the next person. Sarah. I have to go. Emma's waiting in the car with a friend. I walked past him without looking back. Some people deserve second chances. Some don't. And I'm finally okay with knowing the difference. As I drove home that day, Emma singing along to the radio in her car seat, I realized something profound. I wasn't angry anymore. I wasn't hurt. I was just free. Free from the obligation to people who never obligated themselves to me. Free from the hope that things would change. Free from the weight of constantly trying to prove I was worth loving. I already know I'm worth loving. Emma knows it. Patricia knows it. My chosen family knows it. And that's enough. That's more than enough. If you've made it this far, thank you for reading my story. I share it not for sympathy but because I know I'm not alone. There are others out there who've given and given to family members who only take. Who've been the invisible child, the disappointment, the one who's never quite enough. To those people I want you to know. You deserve better. You deserve people who show up. You deserve to be valued. And sometimes the strongest thing you can do is walk away. Drop a comment and let me know where you're watching from and if you've ever had to make a similar decision. You're not alone.